And it's time for another Tulwar cleaning. Again, this video is being voiced over because of technical issues with audio recording. Hopefully this is one of the last ones that has this issue. All the ones you've heard so far were all recorded on the same day, so they all have the unfortunate same issue. This is a very interesting Tulwar. It's part of that batch of swords I bought all in really rough shape. So as I already mentioned in other videos, I'm kind of differentially cleaning them, so to speak. I'm using different methods and different approaches, and hopefully this will lead to some interesting comparisons. This sword here, you can see, is in rather rough shape. It's very oxidized. It has a bunch of rust. None of it seems to be well, that's pretty ugly, but none of it seems to be excessively deep or excessively corroded. So it's definitely very dry, very dusty and rusty. But I have the feeling, just by passing my hand on the blade, that this will be a good candidate for cleaning because the blade seems to be healthy enough. The hilt you'll see is typical Tulwar hilt, but it also is the version with the knuckle guard. So that's quite interesting. And also at the bottom of the disc, unlike the ones we saw previously, it has this protruding finial. I don't know the specific names for these parts, unfortunately. In any case, you probably, if you're watching this video, you probably already know the process I normally use. So we're going to be using a sponge. Given the condition of the sword, we can use the a little more abrasive side without too much fear. And as you can see, I'm using a whole bunch of Autosol there. It's a mild abrasive, and I get the feeling that by using more of it, the sponge slides a little more, which is kind of important when swords are in this condition. As you can see, there's a lot of friction, and you kind of want that sponge to glide a little as easily as possible as you make your way up and down the blade. As usual, I'm working lengthwise on the blade. Normally do not, well, one tip I can give is to not go crosswise on the blade, but one thing you should absolutely not do is mix angles while cleaning. So if you choose one direction, stick to it. Otherwise, you will really be seeing scour marks that are quite unsightly. Of course, this sword is in bad enough condition that scour marks are the last of our issue, but still, you want to form good habits even when they're not needed. You can see the amount of dirt and grime being transferred to the sponge here. The sponge was new, so this is all, and as I mentioned in terms of abrasion, the reason why you want it to slide as much as possible is that otherwise you'll be eating through multiple sponges in the course of one blade cleanup. Of course, sponges are cheap, so that's not the biggest issue, but it's really annoying to have to constantly throw them out and get a new one and keep cleaning. Sometimes you just want to be able to work your way through the blade with relative ease. So that's what I'm trying to do here. As the dust and grime starts to come out and as the sponge is broken in, so to speak, the movement will be a little smoother, and this is something that you'll actively feel as you work your way across the blade. So the smoother becomes, then you kind of start feeling which spots are getting clean, and when you have spots like the one I'm indicating now that still feel abrasive or still feel rough even after you've kind of cleaned the rust off, then you usually have an idea that that is either deeper section of rust or there may be some kind of heavy corrosion going on. So that's probably not something that you're going to easily remove just with a sponge, and probably is something that you don't want to remove in general because it might have kind of damaged the structure of the blade. So if you kind of go on and remove that whole thing, you'll be removing maybe a couple millimeters thickness from that section of the blade, causing more damage than you would by just leaving it. As usual, the langet section is the biggest pain to clean. This is because, well, for a series of reasons, it's hard to reach, but also some products like Autosol leave a bunch of white residue, and once it dries up, so that's really ugly to see. And it's hard to clean, but then it's also hard, like it's hard to clean the rust out, but then it's also hard to clean the residue of the product used to clean the blade out. So it's in general a unpleasant area to be working on. Again, as I mentioned, and I'll still mention again here, I'm working on the spine, but be very careful when cleaning the blade in the way I'm doing now. So by not cleaning one side at a time and leaving the blade lying on a surface. Holding it like that and just kind of running your hand along the blade is a easy recipe for injury. I'm doing it here. It's not to say I'm more experienced or more careful than any of you, but just because I do it does not mean I recommend it. I'm kind of doing it here to speed the process up because that enables me to clean two sides of the blade at the same time. But it has a bunch of downsides apart from the risk of injury, which I mentioned in other videos. So if you can avoid it, don't clean your blade this way. This one, by the way, has the potential of cutting. And also, once you reach the tip, it's easy for your hand to slide off and when you come back to poke yourself. So not only can you cut yourself, you could also stab yourself. So again, I can't stress enough how much I do not recommend this method of cleaning. However, do as I say and not as I do. This is one of those situations. What's interesting here, you'll see the amount of sludge that's kind of coming off of the blade at this point. It's really kind of caked now in mud, basically, essentially. So here's an example of what I'm saying, where you need to be really careful. I'm kind of working really on the edge, literally, on the cutting edge, and yeah, you don't want to your hand. You only have two of those. Swords, on the other hand, can be bought in bigger numbers. So still a little bit of cleaning on details here. The spine, you don't want to forget that. You don't want to forget to kind of go into the fullers where they do exist. Because lots of times just generic kind of wiping won't be enough to get in the dust or the dirt out of the fullers. So that's what I'm kind of doing in this moment here. But I think it's the time is now ripe for wiping all of that brown sludge off and to see what this secret or hopefully what surprises that this blade holds for us. Also, you want to have a lot of rags handy because this is a rather dirty job. So as I was mentioning before, you can see the areas where the blade is corroded. So unlike the Tulwars we saw previously, or the Tulwar we saw previously in the Ninja, you'll see that this blade is actually more corroded, especially in some sections. You can see it's not just patination and aging and not just the natural darkening of the steel, but there are some sections there towards where the blade actually curves up. You see areas of actual corrosion. This is unfortunate, but it's okay. So here is the blade with the sludge wiped off. Yeah, it's a very beautiful feeling and looking blade. It's very unfortunate that in that section, like at the second third there, here, we have all of this deep corrosion, but it just is what it is. Not all swords have been preserved in the best way. So we just have to make do with what we have. This is a good candidate for using decorroder to kind of get into those pits to remove whatever deposits are there. However, decorroder has some risks as well, because by removing what is kind of filling up the corroded pits, you can actually make them even more visible and more unsightly. So it's something that needs to be assessed case by case. Whether or not it's the best approach. In any case, it seems to me like the blade is definitely looking cleaner and better than it was when we started off with this video. So it's time to oil it up. That is usually a bit of a glow up for the blade. It usually enables us to see more contrast. You see the fullers better. And yeah, as you can see here, it's really making the blade shine literally more. So a quick wipe with this. Of course, I tend to overuse my products, as I mentioned, I think in other videos as well. You don't need to slather your blades in oil. I just tend to do it. And so far, it's been working. I don't usually have a lot of rust showing up again before I go to the next phase of cleaning. So every few months, I take a look at the blades and make sure that there's no rust forming. And normally, the ones that have been well slathered in oil don't. So, like, they get to the next cleaning, seasonal cleaning, let's say, in a good state. So here is the blade in its final state, at least for this first passage of cleaning. It seems to me like it's overall okay. It's not as stunning as the Nimcha we saw previously, and it's not in as good a shape as the Tulwar we saw previously. But it's always nice to be able to bring a sword back to some semblance of dignity after it's been neglected for so long. So I'm still happy to see the results we're seeing. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon in another cleaning or history video. So thank you for watching. Bye.